The first ghost of the White House is the obstinate Mr. Burns. Now, David Burns owned the original 700 acres that George Washington hand-picked for the property where the White House will sit. Burns and Washington also fought in the same battalion during the French Indian War, but Washington was an aide-de-camp and Burns was a citizen militia. Oh, history. In 1791, Burns was one of 19 landowners who was approached by George Washington himself for land for the new capital. And George Washington was working with Pierre L'Enfant, who envisioned the city of D.C. looking the way it does today. Burns was one of the most outspoken opponents of ceding his land at all. So, in a letter dated March 16, 1791, George Washington wrote to Thomas Jefferson about the difficulty of finalizing land deals and specifically mentioned Burns. He said, "I am not without apprehension that the obstinate Mr. Burns will throw obstacles in our way." And in another letter from March 31st, 1791, Washington again referred to Burns as obstinate because he said Burns was directly complicating the acquisition of land for the president's house. Not the people's house. He called it the president's house. Now we know what we're dealing with. Now, in February 1793, Burns wrote directly to Washington complaining that he had not been paid for the land already being used that was under construction, so he wanted to bring a lawsuit. He said, "I must bring suit against the commissioners in order to make them do justice. Mine is a peculiar case and requires immediate redress." And this was because Burns had no other land and was being deprived of income, although he owned 700 acres, which, when he died in 1799, was inherited by his daughter, who was called the heiress of Washington City. Scroll through this playlist and you can find out all about Burns' daughter, Marcia Burns Van Ness. But before he died, he did agree to sell the land to the government. But then she inherited it and sold it anyway. Here is the original Burns cabin, which would now sit on modern-day 17th Street in Washington, D.C. If this is your type of content, be sure to like, follow, share, and subscribe to The Den, the Dark Entertainment Network.